So the loop structure or the repetition structure we're going to discuss in this lecture series is the for next statement. It's pretty similar to the do loop statement which we did in the last class, and it's going to basically again run a set of codes a number of times. The difference here for the for next statement is that the do loop basically ran the set of codes for the number of times until some condition was either true or false, while some condition given was if it was true, then we would be keeping doing the same code until it went false, or maybe it was false and whenever it was true, then we basically stopped running the code. Now in this case, in the for next, we basically run it for a certain number of times, 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, whatever number of times. So if you want to have a repetition structure which processes a set of instruction a predefined number of times, we use the for next statement or the for next repetition structure. In the for next, we have a counter variable which is used to keep track of the number of times the loop has been processed, and we have a start value, an end value, and a step value for this counter variable, and these basically control the number of times the loop is being processed, and the values must be numbers for these step, start, and end values. They can be positive or negative. Now the syntax is given on the right. We start with a for, then the name of the counter variable as some sort of data type, mostly it's integer, and then we have equals to the start to the end value, and then we have the loop body instruction, basically the instructions we want to repeat a number of times, and then finally we have next, and then the name of the counter variable. So there we have 3 examples here. We start with for price as integer equals to 10 to 13, meaning that we have some price variable which will be going up from 10 to 13, and each time we convert this numeric variable price to a string and add it to a list box called price list box. So basically to this list box we're adding 10, 11, 12, and 13, making a list box containing all these numbers. The second example, we have a variable called city, which is a string, and then we have the for next loop where the variable x will basically count down from 5 to 1 with the steps of -1. So it'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and each time we'll open up an input box where the user will write down or type the name of any city, and we'll have a list box which will display all the city names used input by the user. So maybe you've observed this, that in example 1 we didn't have a step value, so by default the program chose a step value of 1. In example 2 we have a step value of -1, so it's gonna decrease from 5 to 1. And in the third example we have a variable called rate, which is a double, not an integer, and so it goes from 0.05 to 0.1 with a step of 0.01, and each time we have a list box which adds, or which basically adds the numbers as it goes on. So basically adds 5%, 10%, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10% to a list box called rate list box. Uh, and the code for that is rate listbox dot items dot add. So add items to the rate list box, and in brackets we convert the rate to a string with percentage on it. So p is for percentage, 0 is for the decimal point. So basically that 0.05 will be converted to 5%. 0.06 to 6%, 7, 8, 9, and 10, like that. So as we saw, we need a counter variable. It can be declared in the for loop statement itself, or it can have a separate dim statement for its declaration. So if you want to declare it within the for loop statement itself, you can have for then the name of the counter as integer, and then equals to whatever, or you can have another dim statement where you can define the counter itself. The counter is first set to a start value, and depending on how you want, if you want to count down or count up or count down. So if you want to have a step value which is greater than 0, meaning you're counting up, the loop goes on until counter exceeds that end value. So I mean, if you have a start value of 1 and you have a end value of 10 and you have a step value of 1, the loop goes 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10, and once it exceeds 10, the for next statement stops right there. If you have it the other way, that you have a count start value of 5 and you go down to 1, which we did in the last step. So, and we have step value of less than 0, something like -1 or -2 or whatever. So it'll process the instructions until the counter value becomes lesser than end value. So two ways, counting up or counting down. So once processed, step value is added to the counter, and then we continue with the processing of the instructions. So here we have a simple application which basically starts with your initial salary and makes a list box of how your salary is going to look like for your next 5 years. So we start with the beginning salary, we have an empty list box, and we use a for next statement to show your salary each year for the next 5 years, where the salary increments by 2% every year. So the for loop statement basically goes through the code for incrementing the salary by 2% and displaying it for each year. And the flowchart for that is given here. The code for that is given here. So we define two variables, salary and raise, which are doubles, and then we basically convert this double to a text box item, and then what we do is use the for loop where the counter is the year, it goes from 1 to 5, and the raise is and for for the double dot try parse, what we do is we take the text input in the salary text box text, convert it to a double, and then basically do the for loop statement, for next statement. Again, the for next statement has the counter year, it has raise equals to salary times 0.02. So whatever your salary is, the raise is 0.02 times that, or 2% of that, and that's the increment of the salary. Then once we have the salary, the last line of code basically displays the year number, the salary in that year, and then you have the formatting where Basically, you convert your number to so you convert it to the number format with two decimal points. So you have that comma after the thousands place, basically, and you can see how that displays, how that looks after uh, you enter some salary. So it gives you your salaries for the next 5 years.